Uprooted Theatrical Studios presents.
It's 10 Tips Tuesday.
Hi everyone, my name is Alie Gorrie and I am an artist, an actor, and a disability inclusion consultant for arts organizations, businesses, and educational institutions. I am here today to talk with you about why inclusion in the arts for people with disabilities is so important. 26% of our population is disabled. That means 1/4 of Americans lives with a disability. However, disability is the most widely underrepresented group on stage and on screen. It's time that we all do our part to build a more inclusive world for artists with disabilities. So much of the time when theater companies or arts organizations talk about inclusion efforts, they're talking about it from the audience perspective. But I want to share with you 10 tips on how to make the theater community more accessible from the artist perspective. Number 10, it's really important if you seek to be more inclusive to people with disabilities, you set actionable, tangible, and measurable goals to be inclusive. So set yearly or quarterly goals. That's an easy step, right? Maybe this year we want our ensembles to reflect the disability community in America, meaning 1/4 of our ensembles and our shows will be disabled people. Maybe that goal is we are going to write inclusive casting breakdowns and cast our first disabled actor ever in a show. Your goal can be something as small or as large as you want, but you have to make sure you can measure it, track it, and chart it. Number 9, if we're going backwards, reach out to the disability community in your city, town, location, etc. Often I hear so many theater companies say, well, Alie B, we had auditions for people with disabilities and no one came. And my response to them is, who did you reach out to? Who did you build relationships with? Just because you build something does not mean people with disabilities are going to come. People with disabilities have been excluded from performing for so long that you're going to have to build some trusting relationships. Go out into your community, meet people, be a decent human being. Next, number 8. When you're talking about people with disabilities, it's important to know what kind of language is safe to use. Use person-first language to be safe. Person-first language means saying an actor with a disability, a person who is blind, a friend who is an amputee, instead of saying that deaf actor or that blind friend. Now, some people might prefer to use identity-first language, like I, for example, have low vision, so I could say I'm a legally blind actor. But as someone talking about disability, and you might not have direct experience with it, it's really safe to say person-first language, an actor with a disability. Next, number 7. Set a specific inclusion goal for each specific project. We talked about big goals, but you can also set goals for your specific projects. But you know about goal setting because we already talked about it. Number 6, write an inclusive casting breakdown. This means you have maybe an inclusion statement. Maybe you talk about what accommodations you can provide at your auditions. Maybe that says seeking actors of all races, ages. It really depends on the show, actually. But writing an inclusive breakdown might say something like seeking artists with disabilities for this role, or there's so many good examples. One of my favorites is I saw one for Actors Theater of Louisville, and it discussed that the audition breakdown was for The Wolves, which is a play obviously about a girls' soccer team. And the show said, just because this show involves soccer does not mean that disability, this is poor language, but it was saying like, this is a play at the end of the day, so disability should not hinder you from auditioning. We can make it work. So think about creative ways that you want to be inclusive in your words and how you want to show up as an inclusion champion, and include that in your breakdown so people with disabilities read it and know that they are welcome in your theater space. Next, it's really important that on that breakdown you let folks know that you are going to offer accessible sides. And then this next bullet point here is offer accessible sides. That might mean large print, high contrast, double spaced, and you're offering those sides for every single character, not just if someone asks. It's really magical if you have just say a large print copy to start for every character. That might benefit people that you would have no idea would have needed those sides. A lot of disabilities are invisible, so having the accommodations ahead of time and at your audition is key. And the next bullet, offer sides in accessible formats ahead of time. So you offer them at the audition, great. But what if you had a downloadable large print version of the sides on your website? What if you had an audio file of the sides on your website? So folks can come into your audition prepared and ready to shine. As actors, we hear that the people behind the table want to see you succeed. So let's help people succeed, right? Let's provide those sides the day of and beforehand. Next, if you know that someone in your coming to audition for your show is blind or low vision, be an audio describer for them. Example, I identify as a person with low vision. I'm legally blind and have been since birth. In my whole acting career in New York and professionally, only one casting director has described the room for me. They've said, okay, Alie B, come in and the pianist is to your left, and here's everyone behind the table, and here's what they look like, and here's their name. And that made all the difference in the casting director simply describing the layout of the room. Because for me, as someone with low vision, I walk into auditions and I can't see who's behind the table. Sometimes I can't see where the pianist is until I take a little lap. And that can be a little uncomfortable sometimes. So help a person out if they tell you that they have low vision or you see it on their resume. Describe the room, describe the layout. Also, it's important if someone comes to their audition, maybe with an ASL interpreter or a caregiver, that you make sure that you're always talking to the artist, not the person who is accompanying them to their audition, right? It's so easy sometimes that we think we have to speak to the interpreter, but no, put the artist first, always and forever. And last but not least, my number one tip to be inclusive for artists with disabilities is if an artist with a disability tells you what they need in an audition, maybe on down the road in your rehearsal process, maybe in your show, believe them. If a person tells you what they need, believe them. I promise you, accommodations are not special treatment. Accommodations are the bare minimum people with disabilities need to thrive. So please listen and respond like a good actor and human being would. And these are just 10 tips to be more accessible in audition rooms, and they can translate into the rehearsal process as well. I hope this is really helpful. I hope that this gets your wheels turning, and if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. My Instagram handle is @AlieBG, or you can find me at aliebgorrie.com. Thanks.